Just making up some IBC wicking beds, and just thought I'd show you the tools I'm using and how we're doing it. Drill, just to undo all the little tech nuts and the appropriate fitting pieces, bits. A pair of pliers, because some of the little bolts are held on with nuts on the other end. A marker pen, which I've put in my pocket, and just a big square. So what I'll be doing is unscrewing this to begin with, taking the cage off, getting the tank out. The grinder will be used to cut the cage up, and I'll be using the the jigsaw for the actual IBC tank itself this time. With the cage, it's just a matter of undoing all the screws and bolts using the appropriate safety bits. This cage needed a T40 and T27, taking off the base, kicking out the IBC, and then marking the cage. I just marked halfway point from top to bottom and then hit it with the angle grinder with a cut-off wheel. I would recommend using a face shield though, not just safety goggles or glasses like I used. A reciprocating saw would work just as well too. So these cages now will just be put to one side. I'll tidy up the ends and give them a hit with some cold gal paint just before they go in. As for these IBCs, they're a HDPE2, which means they're a food grade plastic. They don't contain BPA, which is a chemical a lot of people are worried about leaching from plastic. So these actually come from a soft drink producer or soda producer called Wombat Incorporated. So they have a very, very colorish odour on the inside. So all I'm going to do now, they're 1,000 mil or 1 metre tall. So what I'm going to do is use the straight edge, the square, framing square, just to go down 500 mils, mark that all the way around, and then we'll get into that with the jigsaw. Now, because of the nature of these plastic containers being a little bit flexible, it's a bit hard to get a straight line or an accurate measurement, so I sort of mark out 2 or 3 different places and then sort of do a mean average between all those marks. So I also use an old Venetian blind slat, makes it nice and flexible to get around the corners. These things don't have to be accurate to a T, but you know, presentation is everything. And there you have it. 2 half IBCs. Now all we have to do is I just get a blade and just scrape off the bits around the side. Give it a good hose out. These have had syrup in them, so give them a good hose out, and then I'll give them a bit of a wipe down on the outside, and we'll prime them up ready for painting. Rightio, well there's the 3 beds. They're all painted up, and I have 2 16mm holes in each bed, roughly 150 mils or half a foot from the lowest point in the bed there. So that'll just be the 2 drainage holes. With these drainage holes, they're actually being done slightly differently. In the other wicking beds, because they're plastic lined, I've used grommets and barb fittings. No need to with these guys because this container is totally watertight. What I will be doing though is siliconing some shade cloth on the inside. All that's going to do is stop the sand from washing out. With these, I've used an undercoat of a primer. It's a marine primer. I've got a couple of tins lying around. I bought really cheap, so I don't mind using it. Hamish, on his, he actually rubs them back, which is actually probably a better way to do it, but for some reason I'm stubborn and I've done it this way. He gives them a light sand back and then paints it with a external paint. This is also an external acrylic, so I'll put a link to his clip somewhere in here if I haven't already, so you can see how he does them. There's no right or wrong as far as I can tell. Oh, there probably is, but I'm not a paint expert, so I don't know. The other thing, why I've got the gun out here, they're the 2 end caps to these plugs. The end caps to these taps. Those taps should be watertight, but what I'm going to do anyway is just put a bead of silicone around the end of those caps and just screw them on. The tap will be closed, but just as a fail-safe in case the tap does leak over time. This cap, before I put it on, I also put a bead of silicone. I know it's got a rubber seal in there, but just again, just in case it does fail for whatever reason in the future. These beds hopefully will last at least 10 years in situ here, so yeah. Rightio, well, I've cut the lengths of pipe and I just thought I'd show you how I arrange them. It's basically 5 meters coiled in the bottom of the half IBC. Over on this side here, all I've done is made a couple of larger holes there and tied it on with some baling twine from the straw we get for the chickens' coop, and then the weed mat's placed on top of it just to stop any sand or grit, dust settling inside the ag pipe, because you want that void to act as a reservoir for you. So and then the next step is, over the top of that, sand. I use bedding sand, other people use gravel. Have a look on the net, there's heaps of different opinions on what's good to use, what's not good to use. I know this is half the price of pebbles and gravel, so that's why I grabbed this stuff. It's bedding sand. It's what's in the majority of the beds and barrels because it's nice and cheap. So, and they all are working fine for us to this day. So one thing I will show you though is down here I always overfill. So the top of the hole is actually right at the bottom of the level of the sand there. That basically means that no soil, I know it's a lot of sand and it's extra and all that, but it means that no soil or compost mixture will be sitting in water. It's a 16mm hole, so just over ½ inch. Sorry, no, what's that, 5/8 I think. So yeah, it'll always drain below that level, so that's the way I like to do it. Other people probably have different ideas. Just quickly with this here as well, if you're going to try this at home, which I thoroughly recommend, if you're going to use the base plates, the way that these cages are made, if you cut the cage off halfway and then use that on the ground, you're going to run into some problems, because this lip here on the bottom of the cage, this section here, this is an old one, is actually out a little bit further, as you can see they're beaten in there. So I actually had to beat in 2 sides. So this side here, the short side, and one long side have been, the ends of the bar have been crimped, just so they sit over this little lip on the tray here. So just thought I'd point that out, something that you might run into and go, what do I do? I've put a layer of sugarcane mulch in. Other people like to use shake cloth. I've always used sugar cane mulch. It compacts, there's about 75 to 100 mils in there, or 4 to 5 inches, cabbage, butterfly in there, but it compacts down into a nice thick black layer. It lets water wick up and the soil stays above it, and it sort of acts as a filter. Anyway, that's the next step, putting some sort of barrier there, whether you use this stuff or shake cloth or weed mat, whatever. That goes on next, and then we add the soil. And this is the soil we bought. It's a premium mix, so called. It's mushroom compost, a bit of cow manure and a bit of chicken manure. It's rather odoriferous, if that's the word, so that'll be going in next and into the 3 beds. And there we have it. There's the 3 beds filled up. So now all that there is left to do is to fill them up. So I'll go grab my hose. Filling them up is a pretty simple affair with this little thing. I just pop it in, turn it on, and we'll go around the front and wait for it to overflow. And the water's just starting to come through now. It's just starting to pool on that lower lip there. So there we go, she's running. So that pretty much all shows that the bed is full. So I'll go around, turn him off, and move it to the next bed. They did settle a fair bit over the week, so I've just topped them up with some soil that we took from the lemongrass bed right down the back. This first one here has just been planted out with the 3 leftover purple sprouting broccoli. I don't know if we'll get much from them. Now we're coming into spring. Today is about 27 to 29 degrees C, so we'll just see. I think they look alright. It's not a bad, they don't come up too bad at all. There are a few scuff marks on them, just down there where the wheelbarrow got them, filling them up, so I'll just tidy them up with a bit of paint. I really do think though, as far as wicking beds go, having the slotted egg pipe curled up is the way to go, just to increase the amount of water storage underneath in the reservoir, so underneath the growing medium. So that's pretty much all it, I suppose. Any questions, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section below, and I'm sure you'll see these guys over the next week or so, at least, in walk around clips. So another cabbage moth. So take it easy and have a great one. Catch ya.